Can everybody hear that? I'm going to use this during our different exercises. When it's time to conclude, you'll hear, we can hear that, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Okay, awesome. So welcome. My name is Selene Diaris. I'm the Executive Director of the Epicenter, and we are a interactive speaker series and educational forum for business leadership, promoting healthy economies and communities. And I am really delighted that today at the Expo West, we're doing a program on the new edge, practicing mindfulness in business. And I have two dear friends and colleagues who are going to take us through an experience together where we'll get to learn some techniques that will be of assistance to us in practicing a more mindful and empowered way of being and showing up in our lives and in our work and in our beautiful world. So I wanted to, Dr. T.C. North has been an executive coach for 29 years. He works with people to really cultivate high performance, courage and confidence, as well as fearlessness and how they show up in their lives. He is the co-author of a book entitled Fearless Leaders, and he has also worked with Olympic teams and professional athletes in building that mental process that leads to success. My dear friend, Greg Burdulis, he is a mindfulness teacher and also a certified professional coach. He works with stressed out business leaders to teach them how to cultivate more calm, focused, and responsiveness to life itself. Additionally, I would say he's really excellent at his combination of neuroscience and humor, and 7 years as a monk in Burma, sitting in a cave for we talked about it last night. He was like, it's over 14 hours a day in meditation. So that is a very powerful kind of energy to be hanging out around. And through that, he teaches also high performance and other stuff. What do you teach? I forgot.
That'll do.
That'll do. Sorry, had a little brain warp. So we're going to begin with an actual, first I'm going to just say a little bit about why mindfulness in business, what is the value that is going to cultivate or bring to how we show up. I think all of us are very cognizant of the fact that we're living in a rather tumultuous time. There are a lot of really heavy-duty issues that are real and in front of us. And it is our conjecture that mindful practice, mindful living, actually gives us far more resilience in the face of challenging situations. In essence, and I think we all know, mindfulness is just being grounded and more silent, more aware, more available in the moment in order to receive what's coming toward us and to kind of have a slower intake to decide how do we respond. All of us know how to react. We're good at that. We all know how to be mindless. We're all good at that. Mindfulness is a practice. It's a discipline. It's like any other kind of thing you want to be exceptional in doing. You have to practice it. You have to choose to step into each given moment with that quality of attention. So it's not easy, right, Greg?
Right.
But it is also achievable. Right, TC?
Right.
So
see who's in charge here.
So what is powerful and exquisite is that it is something that does require our discipline, our intention, and our willingness to step into that moment over and over and over again, and then to be incredibly kind to ourselves and others when we don't. that is also an incredibly important part of this kind of healthful, mindful living. Yes, so those of you who are just coming in, we would really love you to come join us deeper into the room. We're going to be doing interactive experiential processes today, so having you be near each other is most delightful. All right, so I think that is a sufficient introduction, and now what we will do is start with our first practice. And Greg is going to lead us in that practice.
So actually, before we get into the practice, I just wanted to welcome you. How many of you have been here for more than today? Would you raise your hands? Okay, the vast majority. How many of you would feel like overstimulated is an adjective that describes you? Great, okay. And how about stressed? Some from overstimulation, some from partying too hard or too long, and some perhaps from preparing for hours or days or weeks for this big, big event. So I just want to use a moment or two to recognize the kind of culture, the mini culture that we've got around us in this place for these days. It's kind of normal to be overstimulated and a little stressed and perhaps a little tired and a little frantic and a little worried. We'll get into why that would be normal, even under normal conditions. I don't think that we would consider these normal conditions, and yet, even when there isn't a lot of stress on us, we can have a mind that is scanning the environment for threat. We'll talk more about why that is the case later, but I just want us to acknowledge for a few moments that being stressed is normal. I'm not saying it's pleasant. I'm saying it's normal for human beings, particularly under these conditions. So I'd like us to take a few moments now to release as much of that stress as we can, leave behind us the activity that we've been doing so far today, and leave out of our minds anything that we plan on doing this evening so that we can be right here, right now. So this is how I'd like you to begin practicing. Please cross your legs if you haven't crossed them already. Okay? And now please interlace your fingers. And now uncross your legs and cross them the other way. Now look at which thumb is on top, unlace your fingers and relace them so the other thumb is on top.
It's awkward.
Yeah. This is what I'm interested in. What I want you to be able to feel is how crossing your legs this way likely feels a little awkward, a little uncomfortable, at least not as familiar as the other way. And it's likely that interlacing your fingers in this second way is also a little uncomfortable, a little awkward. Mindfulness can feel like that in the beginning. Doing mindful practice can feel a little awkward, a little unfamiliar, and some people would go as far to say unnatural. What I'd like to propose is really the term that might be more accurate is unfamiliar. But it's easy for us to assume that unfamiliar means bad or wrong. I'd like to propose that for this next hour and a half, that we open up the notion that unfamiliar could just simply mean unpracticed. So this feeling in your legs, this feeling in your hands, is a positive feeling for us because it means you're stretching beyond your normal comfort zone, which is really good news because as you expand your comfort zone, you become more comfortable in more situations. The way to do that is to go beyond your comfort zone and drag the boundary with you. So move your hands and your legs into any position that feels comfortable. And I want to teach you a simple breathing technique that we'll come back to again and again throughout the rest of our time together today. I call it the samurai breath. So what I'd like you to do is to inhale for 4 counts and to exhale for 6 counts. That's what you're doing with your breath and your mind because you're silently counting to yourself. And I want you to smile. Now I'm going to add 2 other details as we get into the practice, but that's all that I want you to focus on for the beginning. I'm going to count in the beginning so that we'll be doing it together. And then once we get into it, I want you to maintain your own count as I add a couple of other details. So your bodies are comfortable, your eyes can be open or closed, that part doesn't matter. Exhale now. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, you take it from here. Exhale as you're ready, and you keep the count. I'd like you to close your eyes for a couple of moments if they're not closed already, so that it helps you to draw your attention into the simple, the ordinary act of respiration. And it's vital. Without this, you wouldn't be alive. I want you to keep tuned into the rhythm and the motion of your breath. And I'd like to see if you can make these additional changes. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And another piece, as you inhale, relax your belly as much as possible, pressing air down into your belly. Well, you're not actually pressing air, but you are pressing into your belly. Because that's one of the ways of helping the belly to relax, is by extending it. And it's one of the places where we easily hold tension unconsciously. I want you to notice what's happening in your mind, because if your mind is outside of this room, if your mind is interacting with some aspect of time that's not right now, then let that go, just for now. This is part of the practice. This is part of the discipline of creating a mind that's powerful enough to be in the present moment without being distracted. This is the essential practice. So I'm just going to go over the details of what we're doing. Inhaling for 4. Exhaling for 6. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Smiling and relaxed belly. So I'd like you to do that for another 20 to 30 seconds, all by yourself, bringing your attention back to your body again and again. for about 15 seconds or 20 now. I'd like to challenge yourself to be alert to your breath and not distracted with thinking when you hear the bell chime. Okay, so if you're, please open your eyes and reconnect with all of us in this room. I'd like to give you a very simple definition of mindfulness. It's the capacity to focus your attention in the present moment with curiosity and acceptance. I want to talk really briefly about that definition. Capacity, it's something that every human being already has. You don't import mindfulness. You don't have to go to Burma to learn mindfulness. You don't have to bring it in from somewhere else. You've already got that capacity. And it's to focus your attention, which is different than focusing your thinking. I'd like you to think back to what you had for lunch. That process is thinking. It's a process we call remembering. That's not what mindfulness is. Okay, I'd like you to imagine what you're going to do tonight. Ooh, on that dance floor. Go to bed early. Yeah, whatever. That is not mindfulness. That's imagination. Or it's planning. What mindfulness does is it allows you to see that that's the mental activity going on, and now you get to choose whether or not to continue down that path or do something different. That's power. Part of what we're engaged in today is creating both mindfulness and power, because we think both of those elements are what are so needed in our world today. Mindfulness without power is not going to go very far, and it's not going to have a big effect when we need big change. Power without mindfulness, I think we already see what happens. Am I done for now?
You are done.
Okay.
Excellent. That was great. All right, so thank you. TC is going to take us through a little bit more on the benefits of mindfulness.
So, and I apologize if you noticed I didn't cross my legs with Greg's exercise, but I had recent knee surgery, and so I'm a little bit gimpy. So I didn't want you to think I wasn't participating.
Oh, thank you, TC.
We want to spend a little bit of time on science, but when we thought about we're at 4 o'clock on Saturday, and you guys are probably really fried, that we didn't want to spend too much time on the science, but we want to give you enough science to know that there's science behind everything we say. Is that a fair thing to do with you all at this point? Great, thank you. All right, so we're going to do it quickly. If you've been reading the business literature, you've seen mindfulness all over the place, whether it's Time magazine or whether in all the magazines. I read Huffington Post and I read the Harvard Business Review blog every day, and I think there isn't a week that goes by that there isn't at least one article in those two right now. And it's sort of getting watered down, which we're going to talk about, and what mindfulness really is getting watered down. And so I'm going to ask Greg to sort of get us recentered on that and keep us recentered that as we go. But here's the benefits of mindfulness as a business leader. You can be more creative, better problem solver, a purer listener, a wiser decision maker. And the reason for this, you all heard the term cortisol. Can I hear? Cortisol, it's a hormone that we have. Mm-hmm. Cortisol is called the stress hormone. It's released when you're under stress, which most of us are most of the day. And when you release cortisol, it actually blocks the executive part of your brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex. And that's where you do all this work. This is where you can imagine the future. This is when you can plan. This is when all the things that an executive, quote unquote, does in their job is in this prefrontal cortex. And cortisol blocks it, and mindfulness releases it. Because it develops this part of your brain to be stronger, and you have less cortisol released. Other benefits that are more on the personal level, what I call the psychophysiological benefits, mind and body, decreased stress and anxiety, decreased worry, decreased emotional reactivity. So it keeps you from going so high unless you want to be that high. Sometimes it's fun to go that high. If you're out partying tonight and you want to celebrate something, it's fun to go that high, but it's nice to have control of not going too high or not going too low when things don't work out. So that's emotional reactivity. It increases your ability to focus right where you are right now in this moment. It improves your immune system, which has immense health benefits. Welcome. Improves your quality of sleep. By the way, sleep is becoming the topic that I'm seeing evolving as the sort of one of the major themes of what we're doing in business that's really hurting us.
Release as much of that stress as we can. Leave behind us the activity that we've been doing so far today. And leave out of our minds anything that we plan on doing this evening so that we can be right here, right now. So this is how I'd like you to begin practicing. Please cross your legs if you haven't crossed them already. Okay? And now please interlace your fingers. And now uncross your legs and cross them the other way. Now look at which thumb is on top, unlace your fingers and relace them so the other thumb is on top.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
It's
This is what I'm interested in. What I want you to be able to feel is how crossing your legs this way likely feels a little awkward, a little uncomfortable, at least not as familiar as the other way. And it's likely that interlacing your fingers in this second way is also a little uncomfortable, a little awkward. Mindfulness can feel like that in the beginning. Doing mindful practice can feel a little awkward, a little unfamiliar, and some people would go as far to say unnatural. What I'd like to propose is really the term that might be more accurate is unfamiliar. But it's easy for us to assume that unfamiliar means bad or wrong. I'd like to propose that for this next hour and a half, that we open up the notion that unfamiliar could just simply mean unpracticed. So this feeling in your legs, this feeling in your hands is a positive feeling for us because it means you're stretching beyond your normal comfort zone, which is really good news because as you expand your comfort zone, you become more comfortable in more situations. The way to do that is to go beyond your comfort zone and drag the boundary with you. So move your hands and your legs into any position that feels comfortable. And I want to teach you a simple breathing technique that we'll come back to again and again throughout the rest of our time together today. I call it the samurai breath. So what I'd like you to do is to inhale for 4 counts and to exhale for 6 counts. That's what you're doing with your breath and your mind because you're silently counting to yourself. And I want you to smile. Now I'm going to add 2 other details as we get into the practice, but that's all that I want you to focus on for the beginning. I'm going to count in the beginning so that we'll be doing it together. And then once we get into it, I want you to maintain your own count as I add a couple of other details. So your bodies are comfortable, your eyes can be open or closed, that part doesn't matter. Exhale now. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, you take it from here. Exhale as you're ready, and you keep the count. I'd like you to close your eyes for a couple of moments if they're not closed already, so that it helps you to draw your attention into the simple, the ordinary act of respiration. And it's vital. Without this, you wouldn't be alive. I want you to keep tuned into the rhythm and the motion of your breath. And I'd like to see if you can make these additional changes. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And another piece. As you inhale, relax your belly as much as possible, pressing air down into your belly. Well, you're not actually pressing air, but you are pressing into your belly. Because that's one of the ways of helping the belly to relax, is by extending it. And it's one of the places where we easily hold tension unconsciously. I want you to notice what's happening in your mind, because if your mind is outside of this room, if your mind is interacting with some aspect of time that's not right now, then let that go, just for now. This is part of the practice. This is part of the discipline of creating a mind that's powerful enough to be in the present moment without being distracted. This is the essential practice. So I'm just going to go over the details of what we're doing. Inhaling for 4. Exhaling for 6. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Smiling and relaxed belly. So I'd like you to do that for another 20 to 30 seconds, all by yourself, bringing your attention back to your body again and again. For about 15 seconds or 20 now. I'd like to challenge yourself to be alert to your breath and not distracted with thinking when you hear the bell chime. Okay, so if you're, please open your eyes and reconnect with all of us in this room. I'd like to give you a very simple definition of mindfulness. It's the capacity to focus your attention in the present moment with curiosity and acceptance. I want to talk really briefly about that definition. Capacity, it's something that every human being already has. You don't import mindfulness. You don't have to go to Burma to learn mindfulness. You don't have to bring it in from somewhere else. You've already got that capacity. And it's to focus your attention, which is different than focusing your thinking. I'd like you to think back to what you had for lunch. That process is thinking. It's a process we call remembering. That's not what mindfulness is. Okay, I'd like you to imagine what you're going to do tonight. Ooh, on that dance floor. Go to bed early. Yeah, whatever. That is not mindfulness. That's imagination, or it's planning. What mindfulness does is it allows you to see that that's the mental activity going on, and now you get to choose whether or not to continue down that path or do something different. That's power. Part of what we're engaged in today is creating both mindfulness and power, because we think both of those elements are what are so needed in our world today. Mindfulness without power is not going to go very far, and it's not going to have a big effect when we need big change. Power without mindfulness, I think we already see what happens. Am I done for now?
You are done.
Okay.
Excellent. That was great. All right, so thank you. TC is going to take us through a little bit more on the benefits of mindfulness.
So, and I apologize if you noticed I didn't cross my legs with Greg's exercise, but I had recent knee surgery, and so I'm a little bit gimpy. So I didn't want you to think I wasn't participating.
Oh, thank you, TC.
We want to spend a little bit of time on science, but when we thought about we're at 4 o'clock on Saturday, and you guys are probably really fried, that we didn't want to spend too much time on the science, but we want to give you enough science to know that there's science behind everything we say. Is that a fair thing to do with you all at this point? Great, thank you. All right, so we're going to do it quickly. If you've been reading the business literature, you've seen mindfulness all over the place, whether it's Time magazine or whether in all the magazines. I read Huffington Post and I read the Harvard Business Review blog every day, and I think there isn't a week that goes by that there isn't at least one article in those two right now. And it's sort of getting watered down, which we're going to talk about, and what mindfulness really is getting watered down. And so I'm going to ask Greg to sort of get us recentered on that and keep us recentered on that as we go. But here's the benefits of mindfulness as a business leader. You can be more creative, better problem solver, a purer listener, a wiser decision maker. And the reason for this, you all heard the term cortisol. Can I hear? Cortisol, it's a hormone that we have. Cortisol is called the stress hormone. It's released when you're under stress, which most of us are most of the day. And when you release cortisol, it actually blocks the executive part of your brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex. And that's where you do all this work. This is where you can imagine the future. This is when you can plan. This is when all the things that an executive, quote unquote, does in their job is in this prefrontal cortex. And cortisol blocks it, and mindfulness releases it. Because it develops this part of your brain to be stronger, and you have less cortisol released. Other benefits that are more on the personal level, what I call the psychophysiological benefits, mind and body, decreased stress and anxiety, decreased worry, decreased emotional reactivity. So it keeps you from going so high unless you want to be that high. Sometimes it's fun to go that high. If you're out partying tonight and you want to celebrate something, it's fun to go that high, but it's nice to have control of not going too high or not going too low when things don't work out. So that's emotional reactivity. It increases your ability to focus right where you are right now in this moment. It improves your immune system, which has immense health benefits. Welcome. Improves your quality of sleep. By the way, sleep is becoming the topic that I'm seeing evolving as the sort of one of the major themes of what we're doing in business that's really hurting us. The ramifications of that, it's like becoming very popular, and I see a lot of you nodding your heads that you've seen that as well. And I work with executives, and I see that all the time, and so now it's become one of the questions I always ask is, how much sleep are you getting? And almost every executive I work with, we've had some sort of intervention of how to sleep better or more, because it affects everything they do. So with that, I want to make a quick transition, and we introduced the concept of we don't want to just teach mindfulness. Greg teaches mindfulness. He's a master. And he also teaches power. And I've been teaching mastering fear and developing courage and confidence, and how do you make a great athlete, an Olympic star, Olympic gold medalist? How do you take a professional athlete who's in a slump and turn them around? That was early in my career. Now I only work with business people. So I've always taught people how to be more successful, more powerful, more personally powerful to create that success. So I want to talk about the relationship of mindfulness and power. So a question for you. Do you think increased power increases mindfulness? Like it did Yoda? Do a little Star Wars theme here. Or do you think it decreases mindfulness? Like it did Darth Vader? But here's what George Lucas said. The story told in Star Wars is a classic one that power corrupts. And we've all seen that, we've all heard it's in history books. But does it have to? What do you think? Does power have to corrupt? No. Power does not have to corrupt. But here's the bad news. It's actually the natural thing that happens in the brain. And this is a very interesting piece of new research. And so the normal response when your power increases, and this is positional power, this is financial power, it's not personal power now, this is positional power, is you have the response of as mindfulness goes up, and I'm going to use my pointer here.
As power goes up.
Sorry, as power goes up, mindfulness decreases. So high power, low mindfulness. And low power, high mindfulness. That's what actually happens in the brain when we study the brain in the laboratory. Whether that translates into real life, you have to answer that because we haven't been able to study that in real life. My guess is we've all seen that happen with people, and so we know that it's true. But now that we're able to start studying the brain in these ways that we've never been able to study the brain before with all these imaging techniques. So the natural response, this is what I want you to hear, is mindfulness actually decreases as you gain power. You guys are leading a revolution. You're leading a revolution in how we grow food, how we eat food, and how we have food available for people at prices that are good food for them that are prices that used to not be available. You are leaders in a revolution. We need you to stay mindful. And what the message we have for you is, it's not natural. You have to work on it. You have to practice it, or else you won't have it. And as you gain in status and you gain in power, it will decrease and you won't even know it's decreased. That's the unfortunate piece. Very important message to you leaders in this revolution is we want you to be powerful and you have to pay attention to become more mindful as you do that, or else you're going to be more like Darth Vader than Yoda. That was good. Can you do that again?
Yeah, I probably can.
Yeah, that's good. So how does a mindful, powerful leader respond to increased mindfulness and increased power? So as you increase power and you have practiced mindfulness, and you practice mindfulness every day because you know how to do it in the moment, you will see that as you increase power, your mindfulness goes up. And it's an unlimited amount, and this is where we want you. This can be you. But it's not the normal. It's not the natural. You have to work at it. You have to practice it. You have to train your own brain. Does that make sense, Jill? Good. All right, so the last thing I want to mention, so we're done with the science now. That's all we're going to do. But we wanted to have those pieces because we wanted to talk about mindful power and the importance of mindfulness with power. And there's 3 levels of influence as leaders. There's mindfulness effects on yourself, on others, and then on the planet. And we're going to focus today mostly on the self. We're going to touch on the others because as leaders, you have to take care of yourself. You have to be able to be mindful for yourself before you can be mindful with others and for the planet. So that will be our focus for today.
Wonderful. Thank you, TC. How's everybody doing? Good? Okay, wonderful. So Greg is going to lead us in another exercise. It's called Meet a Stranger.
So would you please stand up and would you please move so that you're actually face to face with somebody you don't know?
Well, that was good. That got him going. You have to ding him.
Is he ready for me to
You guys?
hug
don't believe that you don't know each other.
We
Is
don't
it
know
true?
each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And do you know him? Oh, great. Oh, well done. Yes, you did. Thank you. All right, I like that.
You're going to stop me.
Well, when he tells me to. Are you ready for me to stop
Yeah,
them?
may I make a suggestion? You go like this, and it'll sound, well, generally it sounds louder. Wow, great. You're doing really well, really well. This is the task for this particular exercise is in 2 minutes, I'd like you to discover 3 things that the two of you share in common. 3 things that the two of you share in common. And by the way, it's okay to move more into center space so that you don't have to feel so crowded with your chairs. So, please begin.
How long do they have?
2 minutes.
I got him going.
Yeah. If we don't notice 3 things.
Don't worry about it. Let it go.
Okay.
They're having fun. They're engaged.
So we're keeping, are you helping to keep an eye on the time? Okay.
How are we doing on time?
That was 1 minute.
I mean, in general.
I think we're okay.
Are we?
We go till 5:30. We're only half an hour in. They're real.
This is a good thing. You're doing a good thing.
Very pleased. I'm always amazed. One more minute and then I'll be moving.
I think now, because I want to do it again. Huh?
Less than half an hour. So you've only 3 minutes.
Okay.
All right. All right, I'll do it now.
Okay. All right. Wow. Wow. Great. Great. Okay. So we're not going to sit down yet because there's a little bit to discuss and then there's an added piece to the exercise. I'd like to hear some of the similarities that you found. Was there anybody that was able to find 3 or more? Wow, lots of hands. Okay, you two that are both wearing white shirts, let's hear from you. Yes. Same number of kids. Same sexes. Yeah.
All right.
4, okay.
Yeah, 4.
Let me just point out, part of what's going on here, research has demonstrated that when you find something that you share in common with that person, it makes a difference to you and it makes a difference to them on who you think that other is. It doesn't matter if you both own chihuahuas or that your grandmothers are in the same nursing home. That part doesn't matter. What matters is that you've made some kind of common connection, and research illustrates that once that's there, you and he or she more likely feel like you're on the same team. You're more likely to work to their advantage and they towards yours, even if you're on the opposite side of the negotiating table. So you're more willing to find a win-win solution. Okay, I'd like to hear from another couple. Miss.
So it's both of our first times at Expo West.
Uh-huh.
We both enjoy cooking.
Uh-huh.
And we both grew up with cats, dogs.
Both grew up with dogs. Okay. Okay. Do you see the range of material that we're covering here? Lovely.
You go, girl.
Okay, so this is the next piece of the exercise. You will, I don't want you to do this yet, I just want to explain it. You will find another stranger. You'll do the same exercise in a little less time, but I want you to practice the samurai breath while you're engaging with this person. There's no way that you can do it perfectly. Okay.
Do they have to count?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4,
So
5, 6.
We understand that there's no way that you can do it perfectly, but what I'm interested in is you being able to use the breath as part of the way of being attentive to yourself and to the other person while you're engaged with them. Okay? So, please begin. New person.
Good to meet you, Aaron. What's that? No, actually, I stayed in my room to prepare. Yeah, being an introvert, yeah. Hey, come on up. It's hard for me to come down.
So I work with cycling teams, sports companies, professional and high school.
So we both work with cycling teams. Are you breathing?
I am
Good.
You really see some people that look like they're attending to their breath.
I came here to be part of mindfulness in business. So we're both interested in mindfulness in business.
Who's facing me about 10 feet in front.
Yes, yes, with the red shirt. Checker.
No, blue and black.
Oh, okay.
Interacting with this black man.
Oh, that's
so-
my friend Al. He's going to be
Cool.
at dinner.
So I've always wanted to study Aikido. I read
Not coming.
George Leonard's book a long time ago, Mastery, and I listened to him speak. I loved him, but because of Aikido, and so we both have a affection for Aikido.
I was going through a book by a teacher called Angry White Pajamas. About a teacher that was living in Tokyo and was a Tokyo riot police class. And my sensei was also
20 more seconds.
I studied in Japanese profession.
Oh, wow.
And I was enamored by
What?
of living in the now, the kind of be here now.
Yeah. This is all that exists right here. So what are our three things?
Okay. Okay.
Rock.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. I love to see how engaged you are and how difficult it is to rip yourself away from this brand new friend. By the way, there's a tip there about creating conversations with strangers. So I'd like to hear from two new couples about commonalities that they found. Somebody from the way back. Yes, Miss in red. Both going to the UK in September.
Wow.
Both, what was the second? Formulators.
Wow.
Okay. Well, I hope you meet each other in the UK. Okay, like how did they get to the fact that they're going to the UK in September? And it's not like next week either. Okay, one more and we want it from this side of the room. Yes, sir.
Alejandro and I both speak Spanish.
Uh-huh.
We've both been to Barcelona. We both like Gaudi.
Yeah.
And this is also our first time at Expo.
Wow.
Wow, excellent,
cool.
excellent. Okay, so would you please take your seats?
The guy that just came in is the one who hires you guys.
There's something I'd like you to pay attention to right now, and that is how you feel in your body after having had that kind of interaction. I'd like to hear people tell me what they notice about their body and how it's different than when they first came in and sat down.
Yes, sir.
Feel more energized, feel lighter.
Feel energized and a little lighter. Yes. Do you want to take over?
Yes. No, I'll just point. Yes, ma'am. More excited.
Okay, but I'm going to ask for actual sensations in your body. I believe you, but I want to focus in on what you actually notice here. Okay, can you add to that? More circulation. Okay.
The very back of the room.
Okay, so help me notice what are the physical attributes of more connected. Okay, let me propose, okay, we'll get to you in a sec, but what I just wanted to say is that it's likely that there are physical sensations that are part of feeling more connected, but they may not yet be at the conscious level, and it may be difficult to find the names for the subtle sensations that are there, but aren't well recognized or spoken about regularly. Okay.
Anyone else? I feel more relaxed. Great. Yes, ma'am.
I feel warm. I feel very cold. I feel warmer.
Could I press you for a moment? Cheerful and happy. What are the physical qualities of physical and or happy and cheerful? Was it? That's what I meant.
I feel myself smiling.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like I'm not in a group of strangers.
Uh-huh.
And no people around.
Okay. You might notice it's not so easy just to stay with physical sensations. But the physical sensations are one of the primary doorways into the present moment, and it's one of the biggest ways to recognize when you're having a bioreaction, like TC said earlier, when the cortisol, the norepinephrine, and the adrenaline are pumping in your system, and things are starting to change in your body, which make you not as available to the other person. The prefrontal cortex is shutting down, communication is shutting down, creativity is shutting down, and the physical aspect of that reaction is one of the first places to notice that that's what's happening. So that's why I'm pressing us to stay in just the sensations. Is there anyone else?
Yes, ma'am. So I have a question. Who?
I'm not sure.
Sorry. What?
Could you repeat what she said?
She was saying that she felt originally more in like her feet and her hands and in her body, and as she started to interact with others, she noticed that she felt she started to go more into her mind and also more about the other and less connected and remembering the sensations of yourself. Is that an accurate way? Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, part of the exercise on the second one was also to breathe in that samurai pattern. Did anyone feel like they were able to kind of hold that in the awareness for those 3 minutes? Or did you have it for maybe a little bit and then it went away? So just who did it the whole time? Oh, yes, excellent. Sure you did. Okay. All right, who did it for like the first bit? Did you start with even remembering you'd been asked to do that? Okay, great. And then who noticed within like about a minute the awareness of the breath had dissipated and it was more back to being in the interaction? Who would say that had happened? Okay, great. And who remembered that they'd even been asked to do the breath thing by the time it was all over? Okay, great.
Was there a difference for you, even for that little bit that you were remembering to practice, in the interaction and how you felt because you were practicing that breathing as much as you could?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right, so the challenging to pay attention. It was the opposite?
Because I was concentrating and focusing on the breathing, I could actually pay more attention to what they were saying.
Interesting. More present in the breathing and then therefore...
Because we were being more open to what the other person was saying. We were trying to find common stuff.
So you were almost quieter inside as a result.
You notice it's the men that can't do two things at once? I could say that, I'm a guy. No offense to you guys.
But he did.
I'm the
He
same way.
was doing two things. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we are going to transition into our next process. And I think that's TC.
It is me.
Excellent. TC.
All right, and I apologize I'm standing in front of you.
That's
but I have
all right.
cords over here, so I want to stand as close to you as I can, and you can still see me. So Greg just took us through a great beginning mindfulness exercise. Remember, the second part of what we're doing is power. So I want you now to learn how to quickly access your own personal power. And this is, when I work with elite people, whether they're business people or athletes or top-end salespeople, they always they're in stressful situations when they go in for the big game, for the big presentation, for the pitch that means I'm pitching my company. And I do a lot of work with entrepreneurs that pitch their companies because I'm part of several startup organizations and accelerators, business accelerators. And so how do you access that power when you need it the most, when it's the most stressful situation? So I want to give you a technique to blend with your mindfulness technique of how to access your own personal power. So let me define personal power first of all. Personal power is bringing your best thinking and your most helpful emotions to the situation that you're about to be in. Your best thinking and your best emotionality. Your emotionality is very different going into a coaching session with an employee than maybe it is on stage. So you always have to know what is the emotion you're trying to create and how much energy you're trying to bring and what thoughts are going to help that. So here's the easy way. I'm going to teach you an easy way to access that, but before I do, we're going to use something from your past to do it. I want you to think of a time when you were in your personal power, when you were at your best, when you were feeling strong, when you were feeling courageous, or you were feeling confident. And I want you to come up with that. It could be from your business life. It could be from your personal life. If you ever competed, it might be from your competition life. But I want you to come up with something, a situation in your life where you brought your best. And again, it could be from courage. It could be from confidence, which are kind of opposite, because when you're confident, you're not in fear. When you're in fear, you need courage. So when is the time in your life when you brought your best, your personal power? And I want you to write about 3 things. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to write as much as you can, and then you're going to share it with one of your buddies. I want you to write down how did you think, how did you act, how did you feel when you were in your best personal power. How'd you think? How'd you act? How'd you feel when you're your best personal power? And if you don't have anything to write with, just think about it so that you can share your thoughts with somebody. 2 minutes. Stuck. Can't get far.
Undo you, TC?
That's all right. I'll stay here.
Yeah, because people are able to see you better up here.
How'd you think? How'd you act? How'd you feel when you're at your best personal power? Be courage. It could be a moment you had a lot of confidence. Okay, wherever you are is great. I'm going to ask you to stand up and find one of your previous buddies or a new buddy, and I want you to share. Just give the title. Don't give the whole story about where you were, what was happening. Just give it a title, a one-line title. I was pitching a big sale. I was doing a conflict resolution. I was competing in baseball. Whatever it is, just give it a title like that. And then how did you think, act, and feel? Share it with somebody, please. Please stand up and share it. I'm going with the standing. I've never done a standing before. I like, it's like a powerful position. Huh? 12 to 15.
No, this part while they're standing.
This part? Oh, just 30 minutes.
I want us to sit closer to each other. People that I didn't think that they didn't know each other, and I explained, well, we don't.
Great.
So I'll go over here so I'm not in front of anybody.
Okay.
Okay, right where you are. Stay right where you are.
Maybe in the future we do 1 minute.
You can remain standing if you want, because standing is a strong, powerful position as opposed to sitting. So just yell out. What are some of the things, how would you think, act, and feel? Pardon? Grateful. Energized. Confident. Clear. In control. Focused. Powerful. Curious. Accomplished. Empathetic. Towards their needs. Good. Can you feel this in your body as you have this experience when you remember it back? This is an amazing part of the brain, is when you go back in the memory and you think about a time you're confident, courageous, strong, whatever that is, it sends that whole message to your body. So anytime you want to create a message, create an emotion in your body, all you have to do is think of a time when you had it. So now I'm going to add one more piece. And this is a universal body motion around success. In all cultures, there's 4 motions that people do when they feel great. They go, yes, 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 yes. So we are going to do this together. We're going to raise our, whatever your dominant hand is, and we're going to, together, not yet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to pull it into our waist and say yes. But when you do this, you're going to anchor the memory that you just shared with your buddy as you do it. So get your memory. Got it? Hand up. Ready? Yes. Yes. Nice. Now, these guys are good. Yeah. Now.
Natural products industry is smart.
All right. And you
yes.
And you know quantum physics. Quantum physics says the quantum particle is one of the smallest particles in the universe. And it says every quantum particle in the universe, if you come into contact with somebody like you have in this room, you are now forever in communication at the quantum level. How amazing is that? Yeah. And did you know the quantum is both a wave and a particle? And if you look at it, it changes. It's like, that blows my mind. I don't get that. I do not get that. But so this time, we're going to remember that we're going to do yes together, and you're going to think about your memory, but you're going to remember that you're affecting the minds of every other leader in this industry, everybody you've ever come into contact with at the quantum level. So are you ready? Let's do this together. Be very aware of your memory and that you're sharing it with everybody in their minds. Ready? Yes. Yes. Nice. Thank you.
That even sounded more grounded. That second yes. You guys really, you dropped in. I felt it. That's
you guys rock. You may sit down.
Because you're quantumly impacting me.
So what I want you to put together is that Greg did the mindfulness exercise and taught you how to be more present. We want mindfulness and power. Anytime you want more power, access the time when you are powerful. And it sends the message to your body. And then you do the samurai breath as you do that afterwards. Does that make sense to y'all? That's how they combine. Back to you.
Beautiful. Okay, so we are now going to move into some more benefits of stress and fear and mindfulness from Greg.
Yeah. Actually, TC and I are both going to be doing this part where we're talking about the physiological and the neurological both bases and results of practicing mindfulness and developing personal power. Remember how earlier I had said that it's normal for you to be anxious? Well, I want to give a little bit of historical perspective and why science says that it's normal for a human being to be anxious. First of all, when the brain is not focused on anything in particular, there's a part of the brain called the medial prefrontal cortex that begins to think about you. It begins to think about your story, and it scans the environment for threat automatically. So what is the emotion that you think would accompany scanning the environment for threat? Yeah, variations of fear and anxiety. Amazing that that would be an evolutionarily beneficial event. But think about it this way. Let's say 150,000 years ago, we were sitting around a campfire. It's a big campfire. And we hear a twig snap in the dark. And you get up and you said, I'm not feeling so comfortable. I'm a little anxious here. I think I'll go into the cave. So you go into the cave and I say, don't be silly, it's our neighbor Thor. But no, it's a saber-toothed tiger and he eats me up. My genes, gone. We have the genes of the people who said, I feel a little anxious, I'm going to go into the cave and be safe and sound. Those are the genes that have been passed down, not the kick back, be happy, don't worry genes. In fact, the scientific literature in 2009 came up with a brand new phrase, the negativity bias of the human brain. And there are umpteen studies that demonstrate the negativity bias of the human brain. Perhaps you are familiar with this one from Stan Gottman, who says that in an intimate relationship, how many negative interactions, wait, how does this go? All right. How many positive interactions does it take to offset the effect of one negative interaction?
4.
Is that your guess? Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Gottman figures it's 5.
Close, but no cigar.
I thought you were going to say, what does he know?
Yeah, no.
But that's in an intimate relationship. In a work relationship, it's about 3 to 1. And the work of Daniel Goleman, he talks about the fact that the closer you are, the more connected you are to a person, the more mutual force there is in that relationship to both elevate and downsize or downelevate.
Downelevate.
Thank you. I was looking for that. I needed help.
I like downelevate.
Yeah, downelevate.
You're downelevating me.
Yeah.
I think we should use that from this. Somebody tweet that.
Okay, so that's just one example of how important the negative is relative to the positive. A great researcher, Dr. Rick Hansen, he says that the brain is like Velcro for negativity and Teflon for positivity. Because it's the negative stuff that can kill you. Watch this. Babies, they don't even know how to talk. When they're outfitted with an EEG net and they see they see faces on a computer screen. When a face looks angry or upset in any way, the baby's brain reacts. Okay, so what is that reaction? By the way, there's a part of our brain called the amygdala that functions more or less as the alarm center in our brain. If that amygdala perceives threat, notice I'm not saying, if the amygdala perceives threat, it turns on the hormones that TC was talking about earlier, the cortisol, the adrenaline, and the norepinephrine that are getting your body ready to either fight or flee. This is part of what is awkward about the human being in the 21st century is that there are threats that the amygdala perceives that are not actually dangerous. For example, if somebody cuts you off on the highway, you're safe, that other person is safe, the people in your car are safe, but you can be really upset. So remember, TC was also referring to how the prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain that gets to pause and consider and reflect about what the best behavior might be, that part of your brain starts to shut down when the cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine and adrenaline are coursing through your system. However, there's the possibility of the left prefrontal cortex to communicate with the amygdala to say, shh, it'll be okay. The technical term there is down-regulate. The prefrontal cortex, if there's enough action in the prefrontal cortex, it can down-regulate the amygdala. So one of the effects, one of the results of this kind of capacity of the prefrontal cortex responding to the amygdala and the rest of your body is two things. It can help down-regulate the effects of negative, that's not the word I want to use, painful emotions. So things like anxiety and depression and anger and resentment, jealousy and envy. All of these are very normal for a human being, but if you're not awake, if you're not aware, these kinds of emotions can change your thinking such that the emotions contribute to the thinking, which contribute to the emotions, creating a vicious downward spiral. Perhaps you've seen that in yourself, but you know what? Sometimes it's easier to see in somebody else. The way that they're thinking and the way that they're feeling enhance each other. That same dynamic, by the way, goes in the opposite direction, called an upward spiral. How you think and how you feel can move you into better frames of reference, better frames of mood, and better frames of mind. It takes awareness or mindfulness to be able to see which direction you're going, and then you've got a choice whether or not to continue that direction. TC, do you have things to add to this?
No, that was very complete.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to do an exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And you are going to lead us in another exercise.
Right. So in this exercise, I'm going to describe it before we actually do it. You'll find yet another stranger in the room. And the two of you will stand face to face. Let's begin there. So, would you please stand up and find somebody? Okay, so you're really good. Boy, I feel the social vibe in the room. I need their attention. Okay, so this is what I'd like you to do. I don't want there to be chairs between you. So you'll have to rearrange if that's the case. And I'd like your hands to be free so that you're not carrying anything. So as you're facing this person, I'd like the shorter of the two of you to do something in a moment. But not yet. What I want you to do is I want you to pay attention particularly to your torso. I want you to pay attention to your torso while the shorter one takes a big step forward.
No chairs between you. Fix that.
Now you guys, whoa, team.
Lost him.
Team.
All right.
Team. All right, so this isn't about conversation, okay? This is about you noticing what happens in your body when the comfortable social distance is no longer held. I want you to understand that you're perfectly safe. We're not going to do anything beyond this. But this is an excellent exercise for you to notice what happens in your body. I want you to pay attention to what happens in your body when you feel awkward and safe at the same time. So, please begin with your step. Okay, So, all right, so you're doing a good job. I want you to stay with this for 30 seconds. Yes. No, no talking.
No talking.
No talking.
No talking. Just be inside of yourself and notice what you're feeling if you're awkward. And try not to even turn away from the person. See if you can actually look at them. See if you can actually see them and feel what is arising in you as you are in this awkward moment. So we're going to get you out of there very soon, but just be there a little longer.
All right, so find that comfortable place. Yeah, okay, excellent.
All right.
Okay.
All
So
right.
I'd like to hear a few things that you noticed in your body. Sir in purple, and then the sir, and then
Heart rate increased.
heart rate increased. Excellent, sir.
More tense, but also the sensation of wanting to do better.
Yeah, more tense, and something in the body goes that way, that way. I'm
Let
looking.
Natalie say something.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching her. She was definitely trying not to breathe, holding your breath.
You did well, too.
Do you want to continue?
Yeah, from watching all of you, it was so interesting. There were people that were literally doing this. It's like, get away from me. So that is extremely powerful. Who loved it? Okay. Some guys liked it. All right. Hey, a girl liked it. All right. Okay. Any other sort of different experiences? Okay, cool. So I like that. I like that you guys smiled. That was how you dealt with that moment, was to find a smile. Very nice. Anyone else? Yes. Peaceful.
Wow.
Okay. Are you European? No. All right. Yes, ma'am. When you looked at each other, you relaxed.
Oh,
Excellent. Excellent.
that's how
Yeah.
it appeared to me.
Jen,
too.
oh, in the back.
Well, I noticed depending on how old you are in this room, but when you have to see close and you have to have that distance, as I moved closer to her, it got blurry. So then I was uncomfortable.
Oh.
Stable because her face was blurry. I couldn't see her face.
Uh-huh.
Did anybody else experience that?
Yeah.
Right. So just,
I wanted to back up so that I could just focus.
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Oh, the party's beginning.
So, all right, so we have about 15 more minutes. And Greg, is there another layer to this exercise?
There's a couple of things to talk about in that exercise. I was just with some young executives who are moving up in their company, and we did a similar exercise. And the notion is that these young people are developing the capacity to stand in presence and in their personal power when they're confronting not necessarily confronting, but when they're interacting with their boss or the CEO or people who have a lot more power than they do. So I'm not saying that they're comfortable, I'm not saying that there isn't tension, but they're developing a capacity, a spaciousness that allows for that and doesn't cave and doesn't escape and doesn't retreat and is willing to stay strong in their own presence. So that's if we had more time, we'd go further with that exercise. And I'd like to check to see how much time we have and if there's another time for another exercise.
Yes, one
Yeah,
more.
okay. So would you please find another stranger? Okay, wait a minute. We're now going to go into loads of conversation. We'll need a time frame on this too. About 2 minutes and then 2 minutes.
So you want me to ding?
Yeah.
Hey. I am. I'm a strange guy. too.
We need to see.
Here's a stranger.
Marshall?
Okay, we need a stranger for this young lady.
Are you strangers? Oh, you've already done an exercise. Okay. Then how about you come up? You guys have worked together, yes? Well, that's okay.
Okay,
we'll let it be okay.
Go and then split up to a duo and take one of each. Okay, my dears, my teammates. All right, so my dears, thank you for being so willing to find another stranger. Here's what I'd like you to practice. For about 2 minutes, the one who has...
There's a real competition over here.
The one who has the longer hair is going to begin a sentence like this. If you really knew me, you'd know. And then he or she will finish it and then begin the same sentence phrase again, adding a different ending. That's all that will be said for 2 minutes. The same person will begin the same phrase. If you really knew me, you'd know. And what I want you to do is practice noticing how much you want to reveal. I'd also like you to promise to each other before you begin that you will keep whatever you hear confidential. So part of what I'm interested here is how vulnerable are you willing to be? And I want you to pay attention to your body as you're going through this process. There's part of it that will feel automatically uncomfortable. There's part of it that might feel like, wah, wah. And to be held in the embrace, or not held in a physical way, but to be in someone else's presence who's giving you their full attention while you are opening in this way can be a beautiful, beautiful thing. So that beauty may or may not show up for you. That's what we're going to discover. The last thing is that I want you to pay attention to yourself and to the other person, and particularly to the quality of the relationship as these 2 minutes go on.
So explain one more time. They're going to, I can see confusion. So you're going to start with a statement. If you knew me, you would know I have big teeth. Whatever, I don't know. And then you say this twice, or do you say two different things?
The person, let's say I'm the one with the shorter hair, right?
Yeah.
I would say, if you really knew me, you'd know that at home I have a cat. This is the first time I've ever had a cat. If you really knew me, you'd know that I just married, and that is a really big deal for me. I've never been married before. If you really knew me, you'd know that there are times where my wife and I are in very strong disagreement, and that's really uncomfortable for me. Do you see what's happening?
So only one person speaks?
Only one person speaks for 2 minutes. Then the other person speaks.
All right, so ready, set, go.
What happened? There it is.
So then we're going to run out of time. So we need to conclude.
So we'll go a minute and a half.
Sorry?
Okay. Running out of time.
I think they're really enjoying this process.
Yeah.
Instead of total process.
They are. And we don't want to go over time.
So, are there ways for us to do our wrap up? What are the main things we need to do for the wrap up?
What do we commit to is important. I was going to do that right after you do this. And then the three of us were going to have a conclusion,
Yeah.
which doesn't have to be long,
Yeah.
but it's important, it's impactful.
Let's get that closing. Let's get that piece you want to do with the,
This.
oh, we don't have the handouts.
That's all right.
to use.
I'm just gonna ask him. I'm gonna add a little bit.
Okay.
I think time to ring. Oh, that was a good one.
I think they were relieved.
Yeah.
So switch the other person. Is that which one they were? All right. So now switch to the other person, beginning that same practice. That person who did not speak and who listened. Now it's your turn to start with, if you knew me, you would know. The same thing you just did, but the other person now does it.
So, Casey, this is what I remember being really important. You and the personal mission. And Celine.
That's gonna be my closing.
Yeah.
That'll be my closing. We each have our own.
Well, you guys already revealed our secret at the very beginning.
It won't take.
No.
It's
What
not gonna
I
be long.
want to make sure we do is, I just forgot.
Does that help?
I think we should do one more breath
Yeah.
process. That's what I was thinking. One more time that we lead them through
How
that
about
breath.
somebody else lead it, not me?
To do what?
I want us to go through one more breath cycle. So everybody kind of does that breath. I mean, it could even be the very, very last thing we do in this room together as we breathe together. I think that's a very powerful way to conclude.
Well, we're gonna wrap up with that final yes anchor, so it's really different energy.
Well, we've
I want to separate those a little bit. Or no. What if we do the yes anchor, then you jump right in on the back and we talk about this? We go now do the same way breath.
Yeah, because that's mindful power.
Put them together, yeah.
And then I'll say, that's mindful power. That's mindful
All right.
power. All right. We're good?
Yes.
Want me to do this?
Yep. Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
Go ahead and have them sit down again.
would you please sit down? Do you want to
Nothing
harvest?
personal. I just wanted to make sure everybody had a part.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
We have 5 minutes.
All right.
So real quick, just a couple of people describing, are we going for sensation or what shall we harvest here, Greg?
We've focused a lot on sensation. I'd like to open this last piece up to anything that you noticed about that interaction. What goes on for you when you are revealing yourself, and what goes on for you when you're present to someone else, revealing him or herself.
So share from either side of that experience, either from what it was like for you to do if you knew me, or to be listening to someone sharing to you. So we'll take a few and then we'll be done. I'm going to go to the very back. Yes, sir. Yes.
So initially, I thought I was in for a treat.
I felt
I thought I was in for a treat, thought I wasn't have to, I didn't have to say anything in return after. So I don't know, that felt good. And very interesting what you find in a second. But then when it was time to talk, for me to talk, I didn't know what I was going to say. And it was weird because I was like, I'm given the opportunity to talk about myself, which we all sort of would love to do. But I didn't want to do it then. So a really big part about this was I wanted to, put in good information in those 2 minutes.
That's very interesting. I like that.
Well said.
Well said, indeed. Another, yes, Lisa. Are you raising your hand? Okay, well then I'm choosing. You're welcome.
All I really wanted to bring to the conversation is that, having this, intimate space with someone for very, very long time, with this lovely woman here, and with this beautiful man here, just being in that space and just looking at her in the eye, and I feel like, I know like nothing really about this really very little. But I mean, I would, if I saw that they were in need somehow, I would be very
Interesting.
that compassion, that appreciation.
I would
That's
like.
really powerful.
I'd like to add to that, because this is one of the ways that human beings can get to know each other and not the story. You might not even know their names, but you can have a connection with them. So part of what mindfulness does, and part of what this level of interaction does, is it connects us to others without all the history, all the baggage, all the story. And that really happens in the present moment.
Yes, ma'am. So it actually drew you out. Yeah. The qual. Nice. Very nice. Anyone else? Elizabeth.
I was aware of how I was like kind of falling in love with the guy that was sharing because he was being so vulnerable, and that's when we fall in love with each other. And yet I was really aware of not wanting to be vulnerable when it was my time. That was interesting.
So what Elizabeth said that you might not have heard is that as this male was sharing and being vulnerable, that there was a quality of falling in loveness, like the desire to know and to be closer to because of that sharing. And yet there was also what was the next bit?
Well, that even though like I was aware that him being vulnerable and sharing so openly, I was really drawn to, and then at the same time I was aware of like feeling my own vulnerability and difficulty in sharing that.
Right. So the vulnerability of your own experience, feeling a vulnerability about that quality of feeling attracted to and compassion toward.
Yeah, I was just aware of that dichotomy. It was very interesting. I mean, even sharing this vulnerability, but
Of course.
I figured I could go for it.
Good girl. Excellent. Does anyone else have something burning they need to say? Yes, ma'am.
Two things. One is, I noticed when she was talking to me, I was able to hold eye contact, but when I was speaking, for some odd reason, I just couldn't look her in the eye when I was saying my stuff. And the other thing is, with it being a one-sided conversation, listening, when I found things that were commonality, it was hard for me to not want to speak back.
Interesting. So easier to have eye contact when you were being spoken to, but when you were starting to reveal your story or what you don't know about me, it was harder to maintain eye contact. Did anybody else have that experience with eye contact?
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah. This young man had something.
Someone over here? Yes, sir.
I learned that I like feeling vulnerable, but actually with reason, and that's because you feel more connected.
Yes.
So vulnerability has a connection to connection. That was good, right? Very articulate. That was me interpreting him. He said it better. So thank you. It's great. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Aw. So I love that we're hearing love multiple times in this exercise, where a feeling of connection, a feeling of care, of empathy, that arises. Isn't that beautiful?
It's beautiful.
All right.
And powerful.
And powerful. So we are going to kind of come to a close. And TC, would you like to start us down that closing pathway?
I would. I apologize. I keep coughing here. I have a throat tickle. So you stayed until the end. This is it. And I really want to thank you for doing that. And I want you to make this valuable to your life. So please think about what is the one thing that you will take away and apply that's either to develop your mindfulness, to develop your personal power, or to combine them. And think about how you're going to apply this information, because otherwise it's just information that gets left in this room. And we're not going to ask for a lot, but what's your one takeaway from this that you will actually utilize? And would you turn to a person that you've already talked with, if they're here, if not, somebody else, and just share that one thing in the next 30 seconds.
TC, how about one person shares for 30 seconds and then